You know, executives are jealous of another company when they spout this kind of nonsense. Steam, of course, is synonymous with PC gaming, given the fact that it has a huge market domination in that landscape, it being the primary storefront for digital PC titles. But it is not the only storefront. There's still competition in that space in the form of Epic Games Store, and then you've got individual publishers and studios kind of hosting their games in their own launchers and whatnot. There's itch.io, there's GOG, you name it. Blizzard has their own Battle.net launcher. So it is not as if Steam is the only digital PC platform. But if you speak to C-suite executives, they'll have you believe that Steam is engaging in unreasonable competition practices, stating that Steam practically has a monopoly when that is far from the case. So right here we have gamesindustry.biz reporting on this research that was conducted by PC distribution platform Rokky. The research is titled The State of PC Game Distribution. Through this research, they surveyed around 306 industry executives across the UK and US between May 18th and May 22nd, 2025. And most of the responders were executives at the highest levels. 75% of respondents were senior managers of C-suite level. C-suite meaning basically any title with like a C at the beginning, CEO, CFO, COO, so on and so forth. And 77% of responders were folks managing a studio or company with 50 employees or more. So you can bet that some of the top video game publishers executives that you know of have all come out and participated in this survey on some level. And what they've admitted is that when it comes to the games that they launch on PC, 75% of that revenue does come from Steam, though they do release their games on other storefronts like Epic Games Store and the Xbox PC Game Store as well, with roughly half of those surveyed, around 48%, having distributed a title to both of those stores. Now, if you look at GOG and itch.io, those percentages are significantly lower, and for good reason. GOG distributes DRM-free titles where you can download the digital game and keep it and distribute it however you want. And that accounts for 10% of the surveyed respondents who have used GOG as a storefront where they launch their games. A lot of companies want their games to have DRM. They want to exert as much control over the digital titles that they release as possible. And then finally, you've got itch.io, which accounts for 8% of respondents who have used that platform. Itch.io being a platform that is more focused on independent development, indie developers. But yeah, their logic is that because Steam accounts for so much of their revenue and PC gaming is so dependent on Steam as a platform and a launcher, more than half of the developers feel that they rely too heavily on Steam to distribute their games, with 72% believing the platform has a monopoly on the PC games market. Except having a significant market share isn't how you define a company having a monopoly on a certain type of service. This is such a ridiculous claim that the research and the responders, a lot of them being C-suite executives, have come under fire and mockery because it feels like they're using the most extreme words to describe Steam to exaggerate what is basically market dominance, but not market monopoly. It just feels like the C-suite wished they had what Steam had, and so they're trying to throw shade at Steam and accusing Steam of something that they're not, to try to make Steam look bad for doing a good job at the thing that they've become masters of. Which is why if you look at responses to folks reporting on this whole situation, where the research showed that a lot of C-suite management folks, a lot of executives believe that Steam effectively has a monopoly. You've got responses like, this image of Gabe Newell accompanied by the following text does nothing. Competition just keeps shooting themselves in the foot. What is this business strategy called? Here's another response with, is this a butterfly meme, except it's game devs asking if this is a monopoly, when what they're really looking at is just a superior product that a lot of people prefer to use over the existing competition. And here's one more response that went viral, garnering 1.6 million views and almost 80,000 likes, that quote tweets this report. And I mean, puts it best, saying that there's a difference between a monopoly and just literally having a better product than everyone else that people prefer to use. And it's not just the community that's chiming in, but also professionals in this space who are saying things like, in other words, 72% don't know what a monopoly is. This is from Matt Piscatella, who is an analyst in the games industry, who often talks about game sales and hardware sales and platform sales and whatnot. He kind of described it best, stating, quote, market share isn't what defines a monopoly, folks. A monopoly is where there's a single seller for a particular service or good with no substitutes and the ability to charge excessively high rates because of this. Anyone can launch a PC distribution service, and there have been a lot of them. I mean, words mean things. Anyways, this is the kind of dumb gaming debate that happens every few years I can get behind. The important thing to remember is that even if Steam encompasses the majority of the PC gaming landscape as far as digital PC game sales are concerned, they still do have competition. In the same way that a lot of people prefer to use Google as a search engine, but that doesn't mean that Google has a monopoly, because there's still a lot of other search engines out there that Google is still technically competing with, even if Google encompasses the vast majority of search engine usage. Because Steam does have competition, that kind of helps keep them in check, because if Steam suddenly starts doing nefarious things like increasing prices or making their service worse for the sake of corporate agendas, then there is a chance that Steam will lose that audience base and they will have other options that they can shift to if Steam decides to do something stupid or anti-consumer for the sake of profits and whatnot. Because those substitutes exist, Steam isn't allowed to charge excessively high rates due to the fact that if they do, there will be alternatives that people will gravitate towards. So no way, shape, or form does Steam actually have a monopoly, and other companies are allowed to compete in this space by releasing their own PC storefronts like Epic did with Epic Game Store, except they didn't launch with a bang. You know, what they advertised initially seemed like a really good proposition, like really good competition for Steam. And in fact, people want competition because it helps keep all the involved parties in check and it encourages them to one-up each other, and so everyone wins. But Epic Game Store's execution of their storefront and their digital PC gaming platform just wasn't something that enticed people away from Steam. But Epic did try, and the fact that they can try and are still trying means that competition exists. You know, they're trying to offer better rates for developers when it comes to the split between the platform holder and the people publishing on that platform. They're trying to offer deals like free games, so on and so forth. So that is competition by definition. Steam just happens to be in a dominant position because they're dominating when it comes to the features and when it comes to the platform environment that they have fostered here. A lot of people would agree that there's just no better option right now than Steam. But at the same time, there's a non-zero chance that a competitor could come and outdo Steam at their own game, and they might start to gain market dominance. That is what competition is all about. That's what encourages companies to not get complacent and actually release good products, because that's what's going to be the thing that's going to define whether the masses gravitate towards your product over others. Even developers have chimed in at how ridiculous this notion is that Steam has a monopoly on the part of executives, with this Baldur's Gate 3 developer coming in and saying it's almost as if it isn't providing a shit service defined by public shareholder KPIs, referring to Steam as it just being a better product, a better PC launcher and storefront compared to the competition. The majority of responders for the survey was C-suite executives, but I guarantee you, if they were to survey the rest of the games industry, developers and journalists and pundits and the gaming community as a whole, you'd find that the data likely skews towards most people not finding Steam to truly be a monopoly, because it is by definition not. But yeah, the Baldur's Gate 3 developer's take has been quoted, and that has gone viral as well. There's a near universal agreement that Steam is not a monopoly. They're just really good at what they do, and a large part of that has to do with the fact that Steam is the oldest digital PC platform and storefront, and so they've had years to refine and to ensure that it is the best service possible. But that doesn't mean, again, that competition doesn't exist and that competition can't catch up or even surpass Steam. That possibility is there, but there has to be a commitment to do that. It's not easy to supplant a company that is dominating the market, but it doesn't mean it's impossible. So yeah, I think C-suite executives should spend less time complaining about other services being better than their own and actually work on making a better service that has the potential to pull people away from Steam. That just hasn't happened so far. And those C-suite executives know that if they were in the same position as Steam, where they were the market dominant in this space, and they had the privilege of being in that position, they would not be complaining. They would not call themselves a monopoly. They would deny those claims outright, because it's just the truth. All the C-suite executives are showing here is that they are jealous of Steam and wished they were in the same dominant position as Steam, but they're not. And if you want to get there, just do better. That's all there is to it. Welcome to competition. But that's my take. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on what this research had to say and what responders and C-suite executives who were surveyed had to say about Steam in the comments below. And to be further updated on all things gaming news, reviews, and discussions, stay tuned right here on Young Yeah. I'll see you guys next time. Young out.